This is a presentation on improving work motivation with assistance from Herzberg's two-theory factor of work motivation. I'm Red G. York, University of North Carolina, Wilmington. There are a lot of work motivation theories, by the way. Uh, there are things like expectancy theory, equity theory. The two-factor theory is what we will talk about. And of course, there are many others. There's been a lot of research done on all of these theories, including the two-factor theory. The two-factor theory has been supported by most evidence, especially if the evidence was taken in the same manner as the original study that led to the two-factor theory. But some of the evidence shows that there are some limitations and so forth of this particular approach. I think it's a good one because it helps us to organize our thinking about work motivation in one particular context. We will review this two-factor theory, which was developed by Frederick Herzberg many decades ago, based on research in the business world. I believe it's just as relevant to the Human Service Organization, which is the focus of my presentation. My own research has supported this particular theory. It has limitations and criticisms which can be easily found on the internet if you'd like to review that. We will test the theory. We'll contemplate a time when we felt particularly good on the job and a time when we felt particularly bad on the job. That is to say, you will do that. From our review of these experiences, we will examine the categories that they fit into and how the two-factor theory is relevant. So I want you to think of a time when you felt particularly good on the job. This is a specific moment, not an extended period of time. It is specific to something that happened on a time when you felt certain realization that made you feel good. Hit the pause button, think about that for a moment. It is a situation, by the way, on the job. Which of the following was your good feeling most related to? Once you've stopped and thought about it, come back to this particular thing. I want you to look at these different categories of things where that might have been the basis for your good feelings. So hit the pause button, think about those things, find the category your good feelings best fits into. Now think of a time when you felt particularly bad on the job. So do the same sort of thing. You're in a situation where you were feeling really bad. So the question is, what was the category that this best fits into? So hit the pause button, look over that list, decide where does your situation fit. Here's a way to interpret the items. Each of the odd numbered items in the previous list were things referred to as motivators by the work of Herzberg. The even numbered items are classified as hygiene factors. So you need to decide whether your good feelings were in the category of motivators or hygiene factors. Do the same for your bad feelings. Were the bad feelings in the category of motivators or hygiene factors? Herzberg found in his studies that people tend to associate good feelings with motivators and bad feelings with hygiene factors. Hygiene factors, by the way, was a term that he used because he thought of hygiene as being preventative, meaning you can address things in the hygiene factor to prevent things from going bad, but you can't necessarily make yourself feel really good. So let's interpret your data. If your good feelings were associated with something that was odd numbered, your experience was a fit with the typical experience. As good feelings tend to be associated with motivators. If your bad feelings were associated with something that was even numbered, your experience was a fit with what is typical. That is to say, bad feelings tend to be associated with things in the hygiene category. So I want to decide where you fit and report this to others if you're in a class. So if your good feelings were in the motivator category, your good feelings fit into cell A. If, however, your bad feelings were in the motivator category, you fit into cell B. If your good feelings fit into the hygiene category, you fit into cell C, and if your bad feelings fit in the hygiene category, you're in cell D. So cell A and cell D are the two categories where we expect to find the most people, but there will, of course, be people who are not exactly in line with others, and that's fine. I have collected data from many classes of students over the years, and I found the data supported the theory each time. In other words, the preponderance of good feelings were in the motivated category, and the preponderance of bad feelings were in the hygiene category. So I want to give you just a set of data. If you can stop and look over this, you will see, for example, that among good feelings, look at the first column, good feelings, 81% of the people put their good feelings in the motivated category. 19% put them in the hygiene category. So that's what you expect. There's a preponderance, strong preponderance of good feelings being in the motivated category rather than hygiene. Look at the bad feelings, you'll see the reverse. That is to say, you'll see that bad feelings are more likely to be in the hygiene category. 70% of those bad feelings were there, compared to only 30% of bad feelings being in the category of motivators. So this is some of the data. I've done as many times. This is only a part of it. And inevitably, the data that I collect supports this particular two-factor theory. What I've typically found is the number one motivator has been achievement. People feel good about finding success in their work. By the way, we are talking about people in the human services. We're talking specifically of social workers. This might mean finding a good foster home for a needy child, or seeing progress on a marriage of a couple you've been working with, or a good report from your accreditation body after your agency has previously been in trouble. These are examples of things in the motivated category that make people feel good in regard to achievement. Some jobs in human service, however, provide few concrete pieces of evidence of success. You have to look behind the scene. Recognition has been found to be high. Often takes the form of that is more informal than formal. For example, I often found human service professionals to have appreciated a statement or just a note from an organizational superior praising their work. I have not often found these professionals to mention having received a formal award for excellent service. This is something human service organizations do not seem to be up with the business world in this particular regard. The work itself is not unusual for human service professionals to mention the work itself, because many find it gratifying to work in this field where they are helping people in need, and this really fits with their identity. Responsibility and advancement often go hand in hand, because advancement usually includes an increase in responsibility. But sometimes an organizational superior will delegate more responsibility to someone than others, or more responsibility to that person than he or she had in the past. And this is typically interpreted as a recognition of a job well done. So we might ask ourselves, what effect does increased responsibility have on you? Does it usually make you feel better? Obviously, if it's too much responsibility, it may not work so well. Policy administration and work conditions are never satisfiers. I should never say never, but I'm making my point here. In my experience, I can only think of one instance where someone mentioned one of these as something that inspired good feelings. It was working conditions, because this person had an office with a large window that overlooked a beautiful mountain. But how often do human service professionals have this particular condition? Usually these hygiene factors are viewed as getting in the way rather than helping. What about your experience? You might want to think about that. Why is supervision a hygiene factor? Why would supervision not be considered a motivator? Isn't supervision supposed to be helpful? While I have found a few professionals mention this as a motivator, it normally comes up on the other side. You might ask yourself, why? Why are people more likely to feel bad, to have bad experiences with a supervisor than to have good ones? So that's something for your discussion with others. Why isn't salary a motivator? In the business world, salary is normally viewed as a major motivator. Why not in the human services? Well, the human services just do not have the flexibility with salary that often is experienced in the business world, and they don't have as much of it to give out. So salary is just not something that human service organizations typically have as a serious motivator of behavior. If someone is satisfied with salary, when does this happen and how long does it feel good? My experience has been when a person just got a pay raise, if it was a big one, they might feel good for a brief period of time, but it's not long before they again feel underpaid. What about relationships? While I've had people mention relationships as something that led to good feelings, after all, we are social workers, it is more likely to be in the other category. And you might ask yourself the reason why. Ask yourself, talk to people who answer the same question, see why relationships were viewed as being something that you felt were more likely to feel bad about than better. So what does all this mean? What does it tell us about motivation in the workplace? If you are a new executive of a human service agency and found that employees are unhappy about their salaries, their work conditions, and certain policies, what should you do? Should you leave the situation alone because people only feel bad about these things, so why worry about them? I would say no. I would say that you should try to do what you can about them, but you should expect only that you can reduce dissatisfaction by doing those things, not increase satisfaction. They're not going to get really happy with you. They're just not going to be as unhappy. In the work motivation category, however, if you address things in that category, you're more likely to achieve a higher level of satisfaction. So you might want to think of the satisfaction as having a line between satisfaction and dissatisfaction, and you can raise people by improving hygiene factors up to that neutral category, but you can't raise them above there. If you want to raise them above there to a level of actual satisfaction, you've got to address things in the motivator category. So here's a summary. I will just put it out there and let you click on the pause button and review that. This is part 1. This is summary part 2. The last thing I say there is that perhaps satisfaction and dissatisfaction are not two ends of the same continuum, but are separate factors in the workplace. That is why Herzberg used the concept of two-factor to describe his particular theory. I hope this is helpful to you.